business is a special meeting to appoint new members to the Edenton Preservation Commission. And at this time, I would ask Caroline Butler and Catherine Smoke to come forward.
We had recently had two openings come about, and for the Edenton Preservation Commission, one for moving and one for expiration of terms. Two applicants we had here, according to their applications that are going to use and be qualified, felt like it was necessary to bring them forward for potential appointment by town council. So we have Ms. Catherine Smoke and Ms. Carolyn Butler.
And one of the things that we need to do, does anybody have any questions of them? It comes on before me as a mayoral appointment, and but I would, if any of you want to make any comments or
I'll be happy to
questions.
ask some questions. So I'll sort of ask this to both of y'all. Thank y'all for applying. I mean, this is one committee that can be have more public input than others, both happy and sad and angry. And sort of give me your 1 minute synopsis of why you think it's important and what you think this commission does.
I'll start. Okay. Well, it's important to me personally because this is my home now. I haven't lived here that long. I've owned a home for 4 years, but I've lived here permanently a little over a year, and I renovated the house and went before the commission and got approved the first time, so I was pretty proud of that because that doesn't always happen. And I've only been retired about a year and a half, and my whole career has been design and product development. And I think design and preservation go hand in hand. And there's a gnat bothering me, sorry. And
You've been after us, get welcome to
I know one of the mantras is restore. If you can't restore, replace it with something that's exact. And I believe in that, and I did that in my own home. And I think Edenton is just growing so much and getting more interest from the outside world, so to speak, that it makes it even more paramount to keep the integrity of the historic district and the charm of the town.
Thank you.
I spent my entire career in public service at the local government level as a city planner who staffed city councils, planning commissions, and architectural review boards. So I've been that person behind the desk.
That is awesome.
Meeting with applicants, meeting with developers, presenting applications in public forums. And I think the educational component of meeting with people and trying to explain what the town is about, what the commission is about, is very important. Edenton is like a living museum. That's one of the reasons we moved here last year. You can't walk down the street without being reminded of several hundred years of history. And every building has its own story. And I think it's important to preserve and protect those stories.
Thank you. I mean, that's a wonderful answer. And, I mean, the only thing is sometimes, as Lisa can tell you, it can get heated. And as long as y'all are willing to, stay in the fire, we'd love to have you. I think you. I think you both bring a lot to the table.
Well, I've only told one friend that I had applied, and they've already said, "Oh, good, I'll come to you." I said, "No, it doesn't work that way. It's a group. It's decided as a group, even if I'm put on the commission." So, yeah.
Thank y'all. That's all right.
Mayor, I think we have two well-qualified applicants looking at their application resume.
Certainly, I was looking over those late last week and again today, and so we're very privileged to have two people with the qualifications that the two of you have come forward and volunteer. And, it might feel thankless at times, but we're very thankful. And so one thing that we've tried to do to make sure that everyone has their appropriate oath of office is to have you enter your oath at this meeting, and that way we can just go ahead and check that off the list. And I'm going to do each of you one at a time because it just seems to work better. So if you'll just raise your right hand, I'll start with you. I say your name,
Catherine Smith,
do solemnly and sincerely swear
do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will be faithful
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina
and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
which are or may be established for the government thereof,
which are or may be established by the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support,
that I will endeavor to support,
maintain,
maintain,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution and laws of said state,
the Constitution and the laws of this state,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
as a member of the Edenton Historic Preservation Commission,
as a member of the Edenton Historic Commission,
so help me God.
so help me God.
And now you get to say, "Phew."
No, I think I gotta go home and read the Constitution. Got a little homework to do tonight.
Well, I tried to break the oath up into small bits, and
Thank you.
I've been in your position before, and you're standing up there, so it's kind of nerve-wracking. So now I'll do the same. If you'll step forward and raise your right hand. I state your name,
I, Caroline Butler,
do solemnly and sincerely swear
do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States,
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
which are or may be established
which are or may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support,
that I will endeavor to support,
maintain,
maintain,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution and laws of said state,
the Constitution and laws of said state,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
as a member of the Edenton Historic Preservation Committee,
as a member of the Edenton Historic Preservation Commission.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations to both of you. Thank you very much. Okay, the next part of our meeting is the public hearing on our fiscal year 24-25 annual budget. And in order for us to do that, we go out of our special meeting, and I will open the public hearing at this time, and the public hearing is so open. The public hearing is an opportunity to once again provide the public any additional comments. Since releasing the draft budget for the fiscal year 24-25 on June 7th, we invited comments on June 7th, and this is the next and last opportunity for the public to comment on the budget. If there are any people that would like to comment on the budget, I'm going to ask you to come forward. We don't have a sign-up sheet like we normally do at our normal meetings, and this is also not an opportunity to speak on matters that are unrelated to the budget. This public comment is centered entirely on our proposed 24-25 annual budget. So with that being said, I would encourage any members of the public that have comments on the budget to please come forward at this time and let us hear your concerns or comments. Okay, Mr. Mitchell, come forward.
Mr. Mayor, Council, two questions. I looked through the budget and I'm having trouble finding extra money or money that specifically speaks to improved lighting, particularly nighttime lighting in the community. Perhaps it's there and I just don't know how to find it. So I would welcome any comments you have on that. And the second thing is, on social media, there was talk of the good reception that you would assuming there's money in the budget for an expanded or second version of Hurricane Isabel, because there was an awful lot that was left out that I know from personal experience is relevant to that episode in our history 20-plus years ago. And there are folks close by, like in Greenville, call me, John, what y'all doing up in the movie business? I explain it. So I think this is really an opportunity not only to have an improved telling, but it will be a useful way to tell the communities near and far who we are and who we wish to be. Thank you.
Thank you as always, John.
So, Mr. Commissioner, one thing to start with as far as lighting, we did include the lighting needs. We've been doing this in phases for our, electric department, and those were included in our 2830 accounts, maintenance repair of lines, as well as funds that were included in some of our system expansion, as well as the neighborhood redevelopment, which is in our 2660 accounts. As far as the funding for any additional follow-up around the Isabel 20 fund, 20 movie, the documentary, most of that was done during normal working hours, and we didn't lower any salaries or wages within that department, and so any expansion on that would just happen, throughout the normal work week. And so, yes, there are funds there if we choose to do any type of additional follow-up on that.
So you were able to spend more on that purpose in the past fiscal year rather than prior to the current fiscal year?
We did spend more for the initial launch of that, but any follow-up, based on the schedule of that current employee, we should be able to afford going forward. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Are there any other comments from the public as it relates to our budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay, come forward, Mr. Grant.
I noticed on the line items that there was something regarding police revenue, and I'm guessing that relates to monies that come in from tickets or court appearances. I'm not sure. It seems like a lot of postings have been done lately about how major drug deals have been busted up, people have gone to prison for long periods of time. And I'm just wondering if any of that money has come in, because aren't localities supposed to get some of the money that's confiscated? And I was just wondering why that doesn't appear to be in those line items. I also had one other, I don't know if the budget amendments that are being discussed today is something that I can discuss right now, or if that's something separate.
No, that would be, technically be something, separate.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Do you know anything about that? Are you prepared to discuss that now?
Yeah. And
Okay,
so
well, he should have some answers for you now and respond.
Perfect,
thank
you. Well, in response to the current revenue streams that we see for police revenue, that is typically any type of town citation, town violation, town ticket, that's where that's at. When we talk about the additional funds that come in for our police department for any type of, large bust or anything along those lines, those are usually specific to whatever task force that officer is a part of. That's a separate fund that we get that has different restrictions versus what our town tickets would generate revenue. We do see funds like that. I think in last year we may have had 2 different cases that we at least got notice on. It does take it quite a bit of time to work through our system for us to actually receive those funds. But I can think of 1 or 2 that have happened over the last year where we did get our portions of any value to what was seized. So yes, we have both.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more comments from the public at this time on our coming year budget? There appearing none, I will, at this time, close the public hearing on our 24-25 annual budget and move to the next agenda item, which is the consideration of council of that FY 24-25 budget. And at this time, is there any discussion or any questions that council members would have of our manager, Corey Gooden?
Yeah, I still have the concern from earlier regarding the acquisition of 311 North Oakland Street. Got an update to that.
So I sent out an email a little bit earlier this afternoon around that. For any type of land acquisition like that, that would require council approval to move forward. And in that email, what I had expressed to council was the funds just be place held within our planning, redevelopment funds. And when council has a better idea of the revenue or expense savings from hosting those trainings, that we would reconsider moving forward at that point. We can amend the budget if we have to, doing an amendment tonight rather than waiting for council to make that decision at a later date to actually purchase that property would require us to hold a different meeting versus the budget that was presented tonight. So I do want to share that as well. But, to address, your specific concern about doing that, we would have to have council's approval to acquire that property and actually enter into any type of negotiations, which we would do in closed session. So at this point, although budgeted, it's not something that the administration can just push forward on its
So
own.
I'll be fine with a budget amendment later, once there's a plan that's kind of comprised and well put together. Personally, I'm not in favor of acquiring that particular property or even really any type of property to expand the parking lot for PD right now. I don't think that's a necessity for PD for the purpose of, I guess, training, for potential training for that department. And I think after discussing it with my fellow councilmen, it just doesn't seem like it's a necessity of the department.
Corey, I thought we had already decided to go ahead with the purchase of that property because the police department needed this extra area to make it whole. So why are we gonna put it on hold?
Well, as the budget is presented, the funds are there for property acquisition.
Well, we haven't voted on that.
Council has not voted to actually enter into any type of agreement or purchase agreement with the property owner. The funds are there. It was included in this year's budget. But once that conversation is had, we would still have to come back to council. So you guys.
And if we don't do it, it just goes into redevelopment. I think that's fine.
Corey, were there any other options for that property? Any other suggestions how to best use it?
No, and we can talk a little bit more in detail about that property, but there are some structural concerns as well as some nuisance and building code for minimum housing concerns. A particular residence has been flagged for termination of utility services because of its unsafe nature. I did take a chance to look at some of the original police department redevelopment plans, and I counted through those today. There are currently 20 spaces as the current parking lot design for the police station sits. And when we look at what was originally considered for that location back when the police station was built in 2017, the spacing need for that size building was around 37. So there still is a gap. Council can reapproach the staff and the administration for alternatives going forward. However, if council chooses to remove those dollar amounts from this current budget as is versus choosing to make a decision at a later time knowing that the funding is there, that will change the current budget expenses and will require us to come back at a later date, just approve the budget and the budget ordinance now. So you still have protection if it stays there, going forward this year to vote once some type of purchase agreement was put in place.
And as Councilman Dixon was saying, if at a later date we decide not to approve that money for that purchase, where does that 40,000 go?
If we made it through the original fiscal year calendar, those funds would just be allocated back to our general fund. It would just stay in reserves.
I think it'd be a good idea to have that, if we get a new plan every year, let them look at some of those issues, and so, I mean, but I think keeping it there is the right thing to do. I certainly don't want to come back
And also, I made a point to Corey earlier today, we're writing a transition period where we're looking at it for a new police chief. And this was a recommendation that came from our current police chief, and I would like the new police chief to weigh in, because he may have some other priorities that he might like to present to us. So I'm in favor of keeping the money in the budget, but as long as administration knows
Yeah.
that we got those concerns.
Right, I'll be fine with it, it's like you said, as long as it's brought back to us for that decision, that's fine. But there are still some reservations with that extension, so.
Since we can keep the money, can I get it to go into my streets and sidewalks?
If we need to do
we made you a promise.
if we need to do out of department budget transfer, we could make that type of change at one of our meetings going forward sometime during the year. Currently, these funds are set aside within our neighborhood redevelopment funding for our planning. So we could shift that to streets or in the streets or stormwater department if we need to.
And this budget as presented calls for no tax
Yes, sir,
increases.
that's correct.
If you got some more that you can free up, I'll take that too.
We would definitely look.
Okay.
Okay,
You're not gonna
yeah,
forget.
do we have a motion to adopt the 24-25 budget?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilman Dixon and a second by Councilman Costin. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor of adopting the 24-25 budget as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that adoption and motion carries. Mr. Goodman, so you've got a...
Mayor, I just want to thank Virginia Wood and Corey for all, and department heads for all the work they put into the budget. I know it was a monster.
Yeah, it's a hard, detail-oriented process, and the way y'all present it to us is fairly smooth. I mean, we have some give and take and some discussion among ourselves and discussion with you, but the two of you make it a very smooth process, and we appreciate that very much.
Virginia did do an amazing job, and we had many months with the departments as well as a lot of time one-on-one with me and her to navigate as we got into the near the end. But Mayor, one thing also, we need to make sure that the minutes also reflect that we have adopted the budget ordinance to match that budget amendment. So we've approved the actual fiscal year budget for us to work from, but we need to also approve that ordinance to match.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the budget ordinance.
Okay, we've got a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries also. So you're good to go? Sounds good. The next agenda item is an updated salary schedule, and action is going to be required on this, but before we seek a motion in a second, I'd like Corey to explain more to us and also the general public what's going on with this agenda item.
And thank you, Mayor. So one thing Tammy and I have been working through for the last few weeks is making sure that we had everything salary schedule wise. And there were only two items that we needed to really take into consideration as potential risk of exceeding our maximum pay scale when we look at the actual positions around our police captain and police chief. We particularly had a lot of discussion when we've been reviewing some of the applications for both of these vacancies. If you remember last year, or 2 years ago, these positions were not affected by the last salaries changes that were made. However, in some of the recruiting that we've done, we've seen quite a wide range of what these candidates are expecting for these roles. And so knowing that the 2 shifts that we're presenting for the police captain from a 22 to a 25, and then the police chief from a 29 to a 30, what that does is elevates that maximum range that we can negotiate within for those 2 positions, because the majority, if not all, of the applications that we've seen in for either of those vacancies are either already at that maximum or significantly above. So what this does is creates some additional flexibility for us to really recruit the type of candidates we're looking for, and the salary expectation these candidates are providing us.
And does the existing salary schedule give you cause for concern about being able to keep the interest of some of the people that have already applied?
Yes, it does.
And what is our timing on that? Has the application period closed?
So the application period ran until today for the police chief position. We will start with some initial interviews and selection, start the selection process this month.
And do you have anyone assisting you in that
Yes.
process? And if
Yes.
so, can you tell us?
So we have a full onboarding system that we have developed with the police chief as well as with the Police Chiefs Association that we use specifically for Edenton. And we do have a system where applicants make it through multiple rounds based on their resume, based on some of the knowledge that they have from both the written as well as multiple in-person interviews with multiple police chiefs and or administrative police officers statewide that we bring in. This is something that is really a pinnacle of the selection process, and we have done that so far for our captain position, and it's very similar to the process we will also do for our police chief.
So our chief will be hired before our captain, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
And we're preparing for that as well. We are working with the town attorney on an employment agreement for at least an interim chief while we can get through the selection process fairly and quickly and have someone to kind of keep that rudder, on course till we get through that process for the day-to-day items that's needed. And that period was open, Mayor, up until today, and depending on the number of applicants that we received today by close of business, we may extend that, or we may start that selection process that we just discussed.
Corey, when do you hope to bring in the interim, captain?
We would hope by mid to early September for us to.
This is
make
a
that
well-qualified former property.
Oh, for the interim police
Police
chief,
chief, yeah.
that would happen, August 1st.
August 1st, okay.
Yes, that would be the start
The
date.
chief actually retires the end of September.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you, Corey. So we do need to take action on this updated salary schedule that is proposed by Corey Gooden. At this time, I would seek a motion to approve the updated salary schedule.
So moved. Second.
And any further discussion? There being none, all in favor of adopting the updated salary schedule as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, agenda item does not require any action on our part. It's just an informative report from Corey Gooden as it relates to our auditor's responsibilities, work scope, and timing for providing those services. Corey?
Thank you, Mayor. And Virginia's here with us just in case we miss anything as far as this. The audit letter of governance, this is part of our approval process for the annual audit each year. And the auditor must provide a letter of governance to the mayor and council. This letter is strictly informative, and it does provide the mayor and council with the auditor's responsibilities work scope and timing for the services. There is no action for this item, but is required shown within our public meeting minutes. The letter was included in your agenda packet. It was sent out on Friday.
There's a questionnaire attached to the letter, correct? There was a questionnaire,
That was a separate, yes.
Oh, it's separate.
But it does need to be
and that
completed
needs to be completed as soon as possible.
Yes.
and returned directly to the auditor.
Gotcha.
And we don't receive those, they have to be sent directly to that representative.
Okay, any further questions, comments on that? Corey, nothing else to add?
So,
Okay, the next agenda item is our customer service policy update. Action will be required on this agenda item. I'm going to turn it over again to Corey so he can summarize the proposed changes to the customer service policy.
all right, thank you, Mayor. There were 3 sections that we had reviewed. If you remember, the most recent version of the customer service policy was amended July 12th, 2022, and the following list of items are recommended for council to consider for the upcoming 24-25 budget year, excuse me. We had to make some corrections around section 7 for our customer deposit, subsection 7.2A, in reference to the use of credit software to determine a customer's credit score. There were 3 revisions that were made here. They were listed in the memo that was provided, the first of which the town does not use a credit software system to determine payment history, but the customer may provide an annual credit report to determine the deposit amount. That's just something extra that we wanted to offer customers, since we didn't have a system like that in place. The town does not accept a letter of credit for deposit determinations, but the applicant provide their most recent payment history. We recommend 24 months from their previous utility provider, and all customers are required to make a deposit. However, homeowners may request the deposit be applied to the utility account after 3 years of payment history determined by the billing clerk or finance director. The homeowner is responsible for requesting that the deposit be applied to the service cost. And so those were the 3 revisions for that section. And Mayor, would you like me just to do a section at a time, or do you want me to continue?
Yeah, do a section at a time, and then we'll have some discussion with council whether we can vote on them all at one time.
So any questions around some of the updates for the customer deposit section of our customer service policy?
So historically, did we have a credit check for it?
There was at some point, and it's been quite some time. And for us, most of our background, what we were used historically is really outdated versus the current credit bureau system that's out there. And we don't have that software to do that, but we're offering it as an option for a customer to bring in to show what the credit history is around the deposit.
So this is an alternative to what we have, okay.
And so we just wanted to make it clear what all, a customer could bring. They could bring that in. They could also bring the recent payment history from the previous utility provider for us to look at and gauge. Any other questions around that section? Section 8, payment for services for utility services. We did correct a few things here. One thing to note here was around the bills are due on the last day of the billing month. We made that known for a handful of reasons around our finances, is making sure our monthly finance packet timing-wise was correct. There was a gap that we were seeing in the billing between the date of the 30th and then not actually seeing the payment till the 1st or 2nd. This corrects that. It will not affect our automatic draft or anything along those lines. This is something that we needed to make sure that we put in place just for our fiscal management for our monthly reporting. We did add some clarification here around some of the penalties billing month, the account was charged 5% late penalty on the unpaid balance at 5 PM or the following business day, whichever it is, the third or after. One thing that we had discussed over the last year was possibly the removing of the $25 non-payment fee. That's included here in section 8.8, item F. And also one change here is that reconnection after the disconnection fee would be changed from $75 to $100, and that's only applied at 3 PM on the 11th or the following business day. And so we did remove the $25 fee that we had discussed and just adjusted to simply the disconnect fee. We did have a handful of requests around some of the items for Public Works and the Electric Department. If you look at items G, K, and J, we did do a meter testing charge after the first free test of $25 for the Electric Department and Water Department. We did one minor technical update around special collections to include yard debris and or excessive trash fee, for large bulk pickups. We wanted to try to include that. We had seen that change over the past year. We did add 2 specialty meter charges, and this really more applies to commercial development. One being the 2-inch water meter rental fee of $250 to be paid before the meter is installed and then charged on a per gallon rate. This is a large 2-inch fitting that we hook up based on some type of construction need for a contractor to one of our hydrants. This isn't anything associated with like a residential meter. This is something more on an industrial scale during construction. Then also we added to move the water meter $500 charge plus labor and materials to be paid. And that's if a customer were to request that a meter be changed to a different location in their yard rather than charging them a full new service tap fee, that there would just be a lower cost associated with moving that to another place on their property. Any questions around the payment requirements for utility services?
Just from my knowledge, Ms. Mass, the special collections and the obstructions, are they notified beforehand or just?
We usually do a door hanger.
Oh, they do?
Yes.
Okay.
Corey, let me
Do they
ask you,
still do that? Do they still do the collection though?
We'll usually do a door hanger and try to contact that property owner first before we do any type of pickup.
if I cut down a tree on my property, cut it up in a small section, am I gonna be charged extra because it's a tree? Or would it be just like collecting limbs and stuff?
Anything large, if a person clears an entire lot or entire hedgerow, that's something that requires a lot more than what our guys typically do for like a yard pile of grass or leaves or a small pile of sticks. Like typically these fees come up if we do have to have some type of backhoe and flatbed out there to load something up. That's in excess of what normally we can pick up with, 2 guys in a pickup truck.
Okay.
So yes, something that big has the potential to get some type of extra charge versus what we could fit into the trash truck or into a small flatbed.
When they pick up that large trash, do they come right to the house and say, this is over
We do.
and above what we usually do?
We do put out those notices, and the supervisor for the sanitation group, they do try to contact the property owner to let them know. We don't let them know this is surprising. A lot of folks either like to use this service because they find it very reasonable compared to some other options that are out there.
Right.
And then some opt not to and say, oh, I didn't know, I'll be glad to take it to the landfill myself. So we do notify the customers though. We try really hard to do that, so they're aware of it.
Okay, so that complete your report?
And the only last thing around the customer service policy updates for section 16, there were just 2 small things that were added for adjustments to billing, item 16.3 and 16.4. 16.3, one small item was added, leak adjustments will only be granted to the customer, has fixed the leaking repairs completed within 30 days of initial notice from the town. And then we added and proper proof be submitted, and that's usually in the form of some type of invoice from a plumber to get those.
And usually the plumber can get that done within 30 days,
Yes,
correct?
yes, that's right. And we work with,
Yeah.
homeowners, if something happens 31 days into it, that we've been notified and they've been working with us, and they, we try to make.
It's actually bringing down the invoice and showing it at the front desk.
Yeah, and the purpose of this is, the town and the ladies up front notified someone month after month after month for a leak, and then coming in 6 months later and expecting an adjustment for that entire time after we notified, tried to reach out to them, tried to find something that was going on, and just choosing not to have it fixed.
Yeah.
And then the only other item, we ran into this as we've been growing, item 16.4 was added for large adjustments in water usage can only be approved at cost production determined by the town manager, building clerk, and finance director. We've had a few major lines that have broken, and we've had some pretty large volumes of water leaks on larger lines that are not applicable to the sewer, that are at big enough volumes that a current retail rate isn't being considered. It's typically at least town cost, so we recoup what our production cost is in that. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of gallons lost because of some type of leak. The base cost of that production wise is still pretty significant, but that would be something that the three of us would need to agree on. That's all I've got for this year's revisions, Mayor.
All right, so we've heard from Corey on this, and at this time I'd entertain a motion to adopt these proposed changes to our customer service policy.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we've got a motion second. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor of these changes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those changes are approved. Thank you, Corey. The next agenda item G, is a proposed budget amendment related to the Wings Over Edenton Air Show. The amendment is requested just to recognize the revenue that we have received by donations from our sponsors for advertising in the amount of $31,625. The event will be October 19th of this year, and there will be several air shows, flyovers, helicopter rides, as well as other family-friendly activities. This does require action on our part, so I would at this time entertain a motion to recognize, make a budget amendment to recognize the contributions that have been made towards this event.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion for second. Any further discussion? All in favor of this budget amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The next agenda item is agenda item H, and this is also a budget amendment to recognize some income that the town has received from a grant related to the mural that is downtown on East King Street. The grant was awarded to the town in the amount of $5,000, and the finance director and town manager recommend that council approve the budget amendment as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion second. Any further discussion?
Looks beautiful. It does. It's a beautiful mural.
All in favor of the budget amendment to recognize this income, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that budget amendment passes. The next budget amendment that is requested, again, is a budget amendment to recognize income. I'm pleased to report that Officer Bunch with the town police department has taken it upon himself to seek and receive a $10,000 grant from the North Carolina Governor's Highway Safety Program that will be used to help offset salaries and overtime wages to the police department. We'd like to thank Officer Bunch for his initiative for finding, going after, and receiving these funds. The town manager and the finance director recommend that council approve this budget amendment to recognize this $10,000 income.
So moved.
Got a motion, a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There appearing to be none. All in favor of this budget amendment to recognize the $10,000 grant from the North Carolina Governor's Highway Safety Program, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Just one question, we're still on that. Officer Bunch recognized.
Yes, I did talk with Officer Bunch, when we first caught news of the application and congratulated him on the award and was very proud to see, such a, mid-level, officer, one of our staff members to go down this path. So yes, he did get those
Took the
accolades.
initiative, that's great.
Yeah, and I'll discuss with Corey and Tyler, possibly sending them a letter from the mayor's office and council's office.
Super.
Thank you for that. Because he's young, he's come a long way since he's been on the department, and I was very pleased to see that he'd taken on the initiative.
It is.
All right, the next item does also require our action tonight. It's a work authorization for the T-Hangar and Taxi Lane project out at the airport. Staff recommends that council approve the work authorization as presented. There is one caveat that there's something called the independent fee estimate, and that needs to come back favorable as to the cost of the services, and it needs to come back favorable with the guidelines of the FFA requirements. And so if we did approve this work authorization, it would be with that condition that it be within the requirements of the independent fee estimate and consistent with FAA requirements. At this time, I would accept and entertain a motion to move forward with the T-Hangar and Taxi Lane project.
So moved.
Second. Okay, we've got a motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, at this time, the council needs to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A6 to conduct a further performance evaluation of the town manager. In order for us to do so for those purposes, I'll need a motion and a second to vote on that. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Okay, this time, for those purposes, we will enter a closed session, and thank the general public as always for being here. And congratulations to our newest member of the commission.